You're listening to CJSF 90.1 FM, online at www.cjsf.ca, broadcasting from Burnaby, British Columbia at Simon Fraser University. This is KPWE with This Week in BC Minor League Sports. Now, during this half-hour show today, we'll recap the final week of the BC Major Midget League regular season, as there were some very exciting games on the final weekend of the regular season schedule. Now, for those of you who are new to this program, the BC Major Midget League is a league for 15 to 17-year-olds playing competitive hockey in the province of British Columbia. And I should mention right off the top, we don't do any major league sports in this program because this is a community radio station. So I'm not going to talk about the Heritage Classic or the Roberto Luongo trade or anything like that. This is not the program for that. So if you're tuning in, we're going to be talking about the BC Major Midget League, and and also because there's plenty of other minor league sports or junior sports locally for you to check out. For example, in minor league minor hockey, I should say, being the thing that's on right now if you're in the Lower Mainland, so we're going to be focusing on that instead. And besides, if you're looking for opinions about the NHL or other major league sports, you wouldn't turn to this station necessarily. So we're just going to stick with the BC Major Midget League for this program this week. So no Luongo talk on this program. Okay, so what I'm going to be focusing on is the final weekend of the BC Major Midget League. And the first round of the playoffs actually started yesterday and continues on this weekend. So what they do in the BC Major Midget League is for the playoffs is they play a best of 3 series, which goes on Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. So the first games of each series already was played last night. So I'm going to go over the final standings as well as the playoff matchups a bit later on in this show. Before that, I'm going to recap last weekend's BC Major Midget League action, the final week of the regular season, right here on CJSF 90.1 FM. And just some background information about the BC Major Midget League. It was established in 2004 to provide elite level 15, 16, and 17-year-olds an opportunity to play within their own age group, within their own zone at a high level. And there are 11 teams in the league, and they're divided by different geographic regions. So, for example, the Valley West Hawks, for instance, which is a team in the league, they have players that are from the Langley area. And for a team called the Greater Vancouver Canadians, most of their players are from Richmond and so on. So this is a league that gives these 15, 16, 17-year-old players an opportunity to play competitive hockey within their own age group and also within their own region as well. And of course, this league also helps to develop these young hockey players as they prepare for junior hockey and beyond. And with the Major Midget League here in BC, there are games being held every weekend, either in the Lower Mainland, in Burnaby, Richmond, Langley, or Coquitlam, or in Victoria, Prince George, Nanaimo, Kelowna as well. So and also in these out-of-town places. All of the games are free to attend, so it's good to check out this league if you're interested in some minor hockey action. And this weekend's playoff games are happening in Burnaby, Langley, and Richmond. So some games to check out if you're in the Lower Mainland, which is a good thing because again, there are games happening, playoff games happening in Burnaby, Richmond, Langley. So again, these games are free to attend. So if you like to catch some competitive minor hockey, then you have a chance to do so. And I'm going to go over this playoff schedule a bit later on in this program. Now, you might be wondering, with the BC Major Midget League, for instance, are there any potential players who will be going on to play in the NHL? Well, the answer is yes. Potentially there could be, because NHL players such as Brandon Gallagher, Evander Kane, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, to name a few, played in this league in their teens, and as far back as 2010, there were 16 former BC Major Midget League players who were drafted by NHL teams, including Brandon Gallagher, and there were 10 former players from the BC Major Midget League drafted last year in 2013 by NHL teams. So you could be watching future NHL stars if you come out and taking some of these games in the BC Major Midget League. Who knows, one of these future stars could be playing in the NHL several years down the road. So let's take a look at the BC Major Midget League scoreboard, as 10 of the 11 teams were in action last weekend in the final games of the regular season, with only the Greater Vancouver Canadians idle. Now, the Canadians, of course, had wrapped up their season a week ago, and so now with the game action, let's start off at the Kinsman Rink at Exhibition Park in Prince George, where the visiting Vancouver Northwest Giants took on the Caribou Cougars on Saturday night, March the 1st. Now, going into this game, the Giants were tied for first place with only 5 losses in 38 games this season. So the Giants have been dominant the whole season. Again, just 5 losses in 38 games. Now, the Giants were tied with the Okanagan Rockets for first place, actually, but Vancouver Northwest does not hold a tiebreaker. So the Giants will need to win out and also hope for the Rockets to lose one of their games or even tie one of their remaining games for the Giants to get the league championship in the regular season. Now, their opponents last weekend, I should say. So their opponents from last weekend were the 6th place Cougars, who already have clinched a playoff spot, but they still had an outside shot at finishing 5th. So it was an important series for the Cougars as well. Now, as it turned out, it was all Giants in this one on Saturday night. The first 10 minutes, though, was scoreless before Owen Stout, Keegan Jones, and Colton Kerfoot scored in the first period for the Giants, with Kerfoot's goal coming with just 1 second remaining in the period. So after 20 minutes, it was 3-0 for the Giants. Now, neither team scored in the second period before the Giants exploded in the third. Ty Schultz scored just before the midway point of the period, and it was 4-0. Less than 2 minutes later, Keegan Jones added a second of the game, and the rout was on. Captain Quinn Thompson and Nash Dabb added goals in the final 6 minutes of the contest, and the final score was Vancouver Northwest Giants 7, the Caribou Cougars no score. Now, on Saturday night, the Okanagan Rockets, who, as I mentioned, were tied with the Giants in the standings going in, were playing the Vancouver Northeast Chiefs at home at the Capital News Center in Kelowna, where they were a perfect 18-0 this season. So you figured that the Rockets would keep pace with a win because they've never lost a game at home all year. Things certainly look good for the Rockets as Tyson Joss, Corey Santoro, Tanner Brown, and Marlon Head all scored in the second period. So a 4-goal second period for the Rockets, and they had a commanding 7-2 lead over the Chiefs. So up 7-2, you figure this game is over. So with 20 minutes to go, the Chiefs looked like they were dead, down by 5 goals. But remarkably, the Chiefs scored 5 times in the third period in a 5-minute span, with captain Connor Burke scoring 3 of those goals. Suddenly it was tied 7-7 with 14 minutes remaining in regulation. Now, those 5 goals by the Chiefs came in the first 6 minutes of the third period within the 5-minute span. So you figure probably head coach Donald Menard or the captain Connor Burke must have given the team an inspirational speech during the intermission, because boy, oh boy, the Chiefs just came out flying in the first few minutes of that third period. So with 14 minutes remaining, it was 7-7, but neither team could score the rest of the way. So the final score in this game was the Rockets 7, the Chiefs 7. For the Rockets, a costly tie because, if they had won out, they would have clinched the regular season championship in the league. And for the Chiefs, a big rally, but you wonder if they didn't fall behind by that many goals early on, and if they won this game, they would move from 5th to 4th in the league. With the 1 point, the Chiefs are still 5th in the standings with 1 game to go. So after Saturday's game, the Okanagan Rockets trailed the Vancouver Northwest Giants by 1 point with 1 more game to go on Sunday. So for Sunday's game, let's take a look first at the Rockets and Chiefs game in Kelowna to see how that went. Now, Okanagan came out strong again, and they took a 4-0 lead by the second period. Now, the Chiefs cut the deficit to 4-1 with Connor Burke, the captain, scoring again with 12 minutes remaining in that second period. Could there be another big comeback for the Chiefs on Sunday? No, because Tanner Wisnowski scored for the Rockets just 2 minutes after that, and Okanagan led 5-1. Now, Jeffrey Wong and Matthew Hermery scored later in the game for the Vancouver Northeast Chiefs, but there was no comeback this time. The final score on Sunday, the Okanagan Rockets 7, the Vancouver Northeast Chiefs 3. So the Chiefs finished regular season in 5th place. They were actually tied with the Greater Vancouver Canadians, who are idle in points, but the Chiefs finished with fewer wins, so they are 5th. The Greater Vancouver Canadians are 4th. So in the first round of the playoffs, these two teams will meet. The Vancouver Northeast Chiefs will be facing the Greater Vancouver Canadians, and this will be a battle between the 4 and 5 teams in the league. But again, I'll talk about the playoff picture afterwards. Let's get back to the Rockets for a moment. So in order for the Okanagan Rockets to finish in first place, they needed the Vancouver Northwest Giants to lose or tie on Sunday. Now, otherwise, the Giants would win the regular season championship for the 7th year in a row. Now, the Giants again took on the Caribou Cougars at the Kinsman Rink at Exhibition Park in Prince George in the final regular season game for both clubs. Now, this time, the Cougars scored first after being shut out on Saturday night. So the Cougars scored first with Chase Dubois getting Caribou on the scoreboard in the first period on Sunday. However, the Giants answered back with 4 of their own to end that period. Colton Kerfoot had 3 of those goals for the Giants, so a hat trick for the high-scoring forward. Now, the goaltenders took over in the final 2 periods of the Cougars-Giants game on Sunday, as neither team could score and the rest of the way. So the Giants won this game by a final tally of 4-1. So Vancouver Northwest clinches its 7th straight BC Major Midget League regular season championship. The Giants finished the year with a record of 33 wins, 5 losses, and 2 ties. The Okanagan Rockets, meanwhile, finished second with a record of 32 wins, 5 losses, and 3 ties. Now, I mentioned Colton Kerfoot had a hat trick in a Sunday game for the Giants, but he finished second in the league in scoring with 86 points in 40 games. So that's still over 2 points a game for Kerfoot. Again, 86 points in 40 games, but he finished second in the league in scoring. Okanagan's Tyson Jost, who had 44 goals and 44 assists in 36 games, won the scoring race with a total of 88 points. So first and second place have been determined, as well as 4th and 5th. Now, what about the rest of the league's action on the final weekend of the season? Now, the 8th and final playoff spot was yet to be decided, and it came down between the South Island Royals and the North Island Silvertips. Only 1 point separated these two teams going into the weekend, with the North Island Silvertips with the 1 point lead. On Saturday, the Silvertips took on the 3rd place Valley West Hawks, and the Silvertips took an early 2-0 lead on goals by Grady McInnes and Hunter Finlater in the first period. But the Valley West Hawks tied things up in the second period with 2 goals in a 41-second span, and it was 2-2 after 2 periods. In the third period, the Hawks went ahead on Luke Gingrass's second goal of the game just 5 minutes in, and it was 3-2. The Silvertips had the remaining 15 minutes in regulation to try and get a tying goal, but unfortunately they could not score again, and they lose a heartbreaker by a score of 3-2, blowing that 2-0 lead that they had in the first period. So a big loss for the Silvertips, again, who going into the weekend had a 1 point lead for the 8th and final playoff spot. On Saturday night, the South Island Royals, who were just 1 point behind the Silvertips going in, they had an opportunity to move ahead of the Silvertips, and they did. South Island scored 4 goals in the third period in a wild game against the Fraser Valley Thunderbirds, and the Royals won their game by a score of 7-5. So the Royals moved ahead of the North Island Silvertips in the 8th place with 1 game to go. The big win for sure because they were facing a Thunderbirds team that had won 5 of their last 6 games going in. Then on Sunday, all the Royals needed to do was win, and they're in the playoffs. Now, the Royals scored 4 goals in the first period, and they looked like they were unstoppable. But they were actually tied with the Thunderbirds 4-4 after 2 periods in the Sunday game. And with 3 minutes remaining in regulation, Arsh Shergill scored for Fraser Valley, and the Thunderbirds defeated the Royals 5-4. So the loss by the Royals opened the door for the North Island Silvertips. Now, the Silvertips just needed to win and they would get in. But again, they were facing a third-place Valley West Hawks that was pretty tough to beat. Matt Bradley and Spencer Gerd scored for the Hawks in the first period as they took a 2-0 lead before the Silvertips cut the lead in half with a goal by Bo Lewis. So it was 2-1 in the second period. Matt Bradley, however, scored a second goal of the game in the second period to give the Hawks a 3-1 lead after 40 minutes. It looked like it would be a good battle for the final period, with the Silvertips battling for their playoff lives, but it wasn't meant to be because it was all Hawks in the third period. Bradley scored his 3rd goal of the game for the hat trick 4 minutes into the final period. The Hawks added 4 more goals in that third period, and the final score was Valley West 8, the North Island Silvertips 1, and that means North Island is eliminated from playoff contention. So that also means that the South Island Royals, despite their loss on Sunday, get the 8th and final playoff spot. Now for Matt Bradley of the Hawks, he finishes with 39 goals in 37 games. That's second in the league in goals behind Okanagan's Tyson Jost. Bradley also finishes with 72 points, and that's 4th in the league in that category. Now, so all of the playoff spots have been locked up, and the seedings have been determined. Now, the final series of the weekend saw the Kootenay Ice take on the Thompson Blazers. It was fitting, perhaps, that these two teams would meet because going in, the Kootenay Ice and the Thompson Blazers were tied for last place, each with a record of 5 wins, 27 losses, and 6 ties. So, a tough season for both of these two teams, and this final series could determine who finishes in the basement, or if they split the series, they would be tied for last place. It was still a pretty exciting series. On Saturday, the Blazers took a 3-1 lead going into the third period before Coy Prevost scored for the Kootenay Ice with 7 minutes left to make it 3-2, so a close game, but Dante Callier scored for Thompson with a goal just 2 minutes after that. The Blazers led 4-2, and they went on to win the game by a final score of 4-3, despite a late goal by Kootenay. Then on Sunday, Spencer McLean's goal for Kootenay with 7 minutes remaining in the second period turned out to be the game winner, and the Ice defeated the Blazers 3-1. So the two teams split the weekend series. Each team won a game, so they end the regular season with the same identical record. Again, perhaps fitting that they would do that. So both of these two teams are tied for the 10th and last spot in the league standings. So let's take a look at the final standings for a moment. The Vancouver Northwest Giants, again, they clinched the first seed, or the top seed in the league, as their 7th consecutive regular season championship, and they finished with a record of 33 wins, 5 losses, and 2 ties for 68 points in 40 games. The Okanagan Rockets gave them a hard push or hard battle down the stretch. The Rockets finished with a record of 32 wins, 5 losses, and 3 ties for 67 points. So these are the top 2 teams in the league. Valley West finishes with 27 wins, 11 losses, and 2 ties. They are the 3rd seed. As mentioned earlier, the Greater Vancouver Canadians and the Vancouver Northeast Chiefs, they finish tied in points with 41 apiece. But Greater Vancouver has 19 wins, and the Chiefs of Vancouver Northeast have 18 wins. So because of that, the Greater Vancouver Canadians with the 19 wins finishes 4th, and the Chiefs with 1 fewer win finishes 5th. And those two teams will battle each other in the first round of the playoffs. at the home of the Canadians, which is in Richmond. And we'll talk about the schedule after in a few moments. But in 6th place, the Caribou Cougars dropped both of the games last weekend. They have a record of 17 wins, 21 losses, and 2 ties for 36 points. And in 7th place, the Fraser Valley Thunderbirds, one of the hottest teams down the stretch. They finished with a record of 16 wins, 20 losses, and 4 ties. A total of 36 points. Now, the 36 points are the same number of points as the 6th place Cougars, but Fraser Valley finishes with 1 fewer win. So they are in 7th place because of having 1 fewer win than Caribou. In 8th place, as mentioned earlier, the South Island Royals clinched that 8th and final playoff spot. They have a record of 13 wins, 23 losses, and 4 ties. And the North Island Silvertips, unfortunately, they finish in 9th place, just 1 point back of the Royals. The Silvertips have a record of 12 wins, 23 losses, 5 ties for 29 points. And finally, tied for last place, the Kootenay Ice and the Thompson Blazers. Both teams finished with a record of 6 wins, 28 losses, and 6 ties. That's good for 18 points. So congratulations again to the Vancouver Northwest Giants. They clinched the number 1 seed in the league for the 7th year in a row. And congratulations also to the South Island Royals for clinching a playoff spot on the final day of the season. Now, as far as the playoffs are concerned, as mentioned, the playoffs started last night on Friday night and will resume on Saturday. And if necessary, Game 3 of the best of 3 series will continue on Sunday. So let's take a look first at the number 1 seed, Vancouver Northwest Giants, taking on the number 8 seed, the South Island Royals. Game 2 of their series resumes today at the Burnaby Winter Club at 7:45 p.m. So that's 7:45 p.m. at the Burnaby Winter Club in Burnaby on Canada Way. Now, again, this is a good opportunity to check out an exciting team because the Giants, as mentioned, they finished their regular season with the best record in the league. It's actually their 7th consecutive regular season championship. So, a pretty good team, and they're right here in Burnaby. So if you have a chance, you can head out to the Burnaby Winter Club tonight at 7:45 p.m. to take in Game 2 of their playoff series against the South Island Royals. If necessary, Game 3 of this series will resume on Sunday at 9:30 a.m. at the Burnaby Winter Club. So again, the Game 3, of course, is if necessary because these teams play a best of 3 series in the opening round of the playoffs. Now, the 2 versus 7 seeds, that will be the Okanagan Rockets facing the Fraser Valley Thunderbirds. This game is not in the Lower Mainland. It's actually happening in Kelowna. So Game 2 will be at the Capital News Center in Kelowna tonight at 5:15 p.m. if you're out that way. And then Game 3 of their best of 3 series will take place at the Prospera Place on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. Again, that series between the Okanagan Rockets and the Fraser Valley Thunderbirds is not happening in the Lower Mainland, but it's happening in Kelowna. So if you are in that area, you can check them out there. Now, the 3 versus 6 seeds would be the 3rd place Valley West Hawks taking on the 6th place Caribou Cougars. Game 2 of their series resumes today at the George Preston Recreation Center in Langley at 8:15 p.m. So 8:15 starts tonight at the George Preston Recreation Center. And if necessary, Game 3 will take place on Sunday between the Hawks and the Cougars. Again, that will be at the George Preston Recreation Center, if necessary, at 9:45 a.m. Finally, the last matchup of the first round would be the number 4 versus number 5 seeds in the league. It's the 4th place Greater Vancouver Canadians taking on the 5th place Vancouver Northeast Chiefs. Game 2 is today. Actually, it's this morning at 10 a.m. at the Richmond Oval. That's game 2 of their series. And game 3, if necessary, the venue has been the venue is to be determined, but you can check the league website later on today because they will have a location finalized before tonight. I would imagine if this game is necessary, it's happening on Sunday. So again, a few matchups to check out because today, for instance. You could, of course, go to the Richmond Oval at 10 a.m. to check out the Canadians versus the Chiefs happening this morning. And then, of course, you can head out to Langley or to Burnaby for tonight's matchup between the between the Cougars and the Hawks in Langley at 8:15. Or you can check out the Giants versus the Royals at 7:45 in Burnaby. So either way, you can check out 2 games on Saturday, one in the morning and one of the 2 at night. And then on Sunday, if any of the third game matchups are necessary, you can of course check that out as well. Now, of course, for the standings and also for the playoff picture, all the things that I mentioned, you can of course check out these details on the official league website. The website is www.bcmml.net. That's www.bcmml.net. So you can, of course, go to the website to check out more information about the venues of the playoff games. And again, all 4 of the series started last night, and 3 of them are happening in the Lower Mainland. Again, they play a 3-game series, which goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Of course, the Sunday games are if necessary, so some or all of these series could end on Saturday. So, just go to the league website and check out the information about the playoff results. That's going to do it for this week's program. We're going to be back 1 week from now for the next show. And in the meantime, of course, get out to Burnaby, Langley, or Richmond to check out some of the BC Major Midget League playoff games this weekend. We'll talk to you again next time.
Relay for Life is a unique community event where local heroes come together for 12 hours of fun, friendship, and fundraising, and build hope for a future where no Canadian fears cancer. Canadian Cancer Society, March 22nd, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the West Mall Gym. For more information, email at emitchell@bc.cancer.ca.